and welcome to the program from the State Assemblies, your window into the workings of Nigeria's state legislatures. State House of Assembly are central to democratic governance, making laws representing citizens and providing oversight of the executive at the state level. Yet, lingering issues persist over the inactiveness of some assemblies with prolonged recess, fewer plenary sittings, and limited legislative output. Developments that can weaken accountability and efficiency of the state assemblies. On this episode, we will examine the role, impact, and challenges surrounding the effectiveness of state legislatures across the country. I am your host, Amina Said. Thank you for staying with us. State houses of assembly are constitutionally empowered to serve as the people's parliament, making laws, overseeing the executive, and amplifying citizens' voices. But in Bayelsa State, questions are growing louder about how active and impactful that role truly is. State Assembly correspondent Baratu Apiriawe takes a closer look at the Bayelsa State House of Assembly, its role, its perceived inactiveness, and what this means for ordinary citizens.
The Bayelsa State House of Assembly, an institution designed to safeguard democracy at the grassroots. Within these chambers, laws are expected to be debated, executive actions scrutinized, and the needs of the people brought to the forefront. But for many residents, the assembly appears distant, quiet, and at times inactive. Since its inauguration, critics argue that the House has struggled to assert its independence, often perceived as merely endorsing executive decisions rather than challenging them in the public interest. Analysts say this perceived inactiveness weakens democratic accountability and leaves citizens feeling disconnected from governance.
Let me give you an example. There is this forestry bill as we speak. Public hearing had been done since last year. I was in the public hearing there. But as we speak to now, that bill, it has not been passed. And several other bills that are lying down there at the State House of Assembly. I was at the State House of Assembly on Monday. I got down there, it's like the assembly is not functioning. Apart from the regular assembly staffs you see, the lawmakers, you don't even see them. They don't even come to their offices, talk less of sitting. So it is really, really disturbing.
With the desperate development needs of the people, one cannot ignore the concerns of citizens who say they rarely feel the impact of legislative activities on their daily lives, from infrastructure and healthcare to education and youth empowerment. Experts warn that when a state assembly fails to effectively perform its oversight and lawmaking functions, governance suffers, transparency declines, public trust erodes, and development slows. In Bayelsa, where environmental challenges, unemployment, and infrastructural gaps persist, many believe a more proactive legislature could make a significant difference.
By design of those who crafted democracy, the legislature should act like a watchdog to the judiciary, that is, to the executive. That is what it's meant for. Some oversight functions need to be strengthened. Implementation of policies of government also need to be strengthened. Laws that will further entrench democracy need to be further and strengthened, and into some of the teaching areas that we need laws to improve on. And we also know that projects that need to go to constituencies and all that have come under some headings. We want to see that they drive democracy or dividends of democracy to their various areas they are representing.
The Assembly House is a very serious lawmaking business house. It's not a place where today some people see it as enjoying the paraphernalias of the office.
For democracy to truly work in Bayelsa State, observers say the House of Assembly, beyond routine sessions and party loyalty, towards bold legislation, effective oversight, and genuine representation of the people's will.
Thank you, Baratu Apiri. At a time when citizens question the visibility and pace of legislative work, the 10th Borno State House of Assembly continues to operate largely behind the scenes, shaping policies, strengthening accountability, and driving grassroots development. For some residents, the legislature may seem quiet, but for others, its impact is written in new classrooms, flowing boreholes, functional health centers, and communities slowly regaining stability after years of conflict. Kaiga Mustafa Shehu reports on the role, relevance, and impact of the lawmakers.
For many people in Borno State, governance is not measured by debate on the assembly floor, but by everyday realities like their children learning in safe classrooms, access to healthcare delivery, and potable water. Despite these expectations, some residents say the 10th Assembly appears largely inactive, rarely drawing public attention.
Most of the constituencies are not getting what they're supposed to get. Even if they are getting, they are not getting what is so substantial. Probably if they voted, say 100 naira, for instance, they hardly can get 30 to 40 naira in some instances.
Since its inauguration, the 10th Assembly has passed key bills aimed at improving social welfare, supporting post-insurgency recovery, and strengthening care for internally displaced persons returning to their communities.
On a bill of profound historical importance and moral responsibility to the people of Borno State, titled A Bill for a Law to Establish the Borno Model for Peace, Reconciliation and Development.
Beyond lawmaking, oversight remains a core responsibility of the House, with lawmakers regularly scrutinizing government spending, monitoring project execution, and engaging ministries and agencies to ensure public funds translate into real development, especially in communities emerging from years of conflict. The most visible impact of the Assembly, however, is felt through constituency projects and meaningful interventions that touch daily life. From classrooms and health centers to boreholes, rural roads, and skills acquisition centers, these projects are restoring dignity and opportunity to communities once cut off by insecurity. For families returning home after displacement, these projects means more than infrastructure. They represent stability, safety, and hope of a fresh start. While the work of the Assembly may not always dominate headlines, governance experts say effective legislating is measured not by noise but by outcomes and laws that protect the vulnerable, oversight that safeguard public resources, and the projects that improve lives.
Anytime the State House Assembly will pass a law, they will invite the general public through the public hearing. Citizens will be allowed to come ventilate their feelings, voice their anger, attack the law, contribute in a way that the proposed law will serve their best interest.
As Borno State continue its journey from conflicts to recovery, the role of the legislature remains central, not just in chambers and committee rooms, but in villages, schools, clinics, and homes where governance ultimately matters most.
As democracy continues to gain momentum in Nigeria with over 2 decades of uninterrupted democratic governance, one of its core pillars, the legislative arm, has the responsibility of ensuring that the dividends of democracy reach the people both at the state and federal levels. However, observers believe the task is more demanding than it appears. Lawmakers, especially at the state level, have been urged to do more in discharging their constitutional responsibilities. Samira Hamishra tells us more.
The legislature is considered as an arm of government. It is closer to the electorate due to its constitutional powers of representation, bringing the plight of constituents to the forefront of governance. This is complemented by its oversight functions over government agencies and parastatals, ensuring public resources are prudently expended as approved in the appropriation law. The question is, how effective are these lawmakers in the context of Kanu Assembly?
We can say they have not been effective because we have been hearing of allegations that some of these members, the moment they're declared winners in their elections, they will not set their foot their feet into their constituencies until it is another round for elections. So if you look at the three very important roles that they play, making law, oversight function, and also the responsibilities that they do have for their constituents, it is only in the first one, that is making law, that we can actually score them as having attained pass mark. So there is your answer. 2/1, of course, is a failure, actually. So in that respect, we can say they have not been very much effective.
For Malan Kabiru Sufi, a seasoned public scientist, the legislative arm can achieve more with increased public awareness of the rules and obligations of lawmakers, as well as enactment of quality legislations.
We used to have people that are not really very capable, or they don't really understand the enormity of the responsibilities that lies ahead, or that lies on them when they are elected into the House. So when they go, they fall short of what is expected, largely because they do not know what is expected of them, or because they do not live up to the responsibility.
Also maintains that a strong opposition within the Assembly will compel lawmakers to remain proactive and accountable.
The opposition at that level is also needed. So if at all at the State Houses or Assembly there will be no oppositions, I think that will greatly undermine the functions of the House itself, because the House needs to guide itself, and that guidance can come from the opposition within the House or Assembly.
Meanwhile, a cross-section of Kano residents hold diverse opinions on the impact of the legislature on their daily lives.
They have been doing their duty. They have been discharging their obligations correctly.
They need to identify the problems or the needs of the people they are representing, so that they will be able to tender it once they are representing.
If they can wake up to the challenge, push forward their bills to the betterment of their different communities.
Should keep public interest, political interest, ahead of their own personal interest.
Is by a conscious decision making. Decisions that will impact the life and the welfare of the masses.
Overall, the scorecard of the Kano State House of Assembly can be rated as average. Citizens are calling for more people-oriented legislation, especially in hard-to-reach communities in critical areas such as education, healthcare, water supply, and other essential social amenities.
Thank you, Samira. Now, political analysts and some members of the public in Yobe State are calling on the state lawmakers to do more in championing their cause and addressing concerns of constituents through effective legislation. This is in addition to regularly updating constituents on legislative activities and promotion of government policies and programs. State Assembly correspondent Babu Ganakolo has more.
The Yobe State House Assembly is an integral part of the government as one of the three core arms alongside the executive and the judiciary under the principle of separation of powers. It is constitutionally empowered to make laws for the peace, order, and good governance. The Deputy Director Legal Services Yobe State House Assembly, Ibrahim Jibrin Madaki, explains some of the primary roles of the legislature in lawmaking, representation of constituents' needs in the Assembly, conducting oversight functions, and constituency development.
Primary duty of the legislature is what? Making law. And that law must come from a member, executive, or maybe community or civil society organizations. Then another function of the legislature is representation. By representation, it means every member is expected to now represent the constituency where he or she comes from. And then in that representation, the member is expected to now contribute, maybe through a motion, if there is anything that is bedeviling the community or where he comes from, he can now sponsor a motion. Some motions are motions of urgent public importance. Some motions are motions that it's not urgent, but the motion is maybe brought to the plenary in order for the legislators to now debate upon it and see and call on the executive to now implement or to take some actions in order to see that maybe certain things that is taking place has come to an end.
Political analysts and some members of the public, however, shared divergent views on whether the state lawmakers are meeting the expectation of the constituents.
If my representative in the State Assembly supports a particular idea, I am the one supporting that idea, because I voted for him, or my constituency voted him to represent us in that assembly. That is how important they are.
They help in ensuring that the needs of the people in terms of health care, water, electricity, security are taken care of by the state. So where there are problems or challenges, it is the responsibility of the different members representing different wards to present it in the House. Okay, so they are more or less protectors and champions of their people at the state level.
They are the tier of government that is closest to the common man. So they know what the common man needs, that is the people of the grassroots. They are in contact with them because they cannot reach the executive. It's too far away from them. But they are with these people who elected them. So they tell them their wishes and aspirations and they bring it to the government.
They are not there just to warm seats. I always expect my representative to be heard, making laws, so that at the end of the legislative year, to be proud of, to see my representative on the scorecard has a highest participation.
They commended the Yobe State House Assembly for the harmonious relationship with the executive, which they said engendered development.
If you look at what they did in terms of passage of bills, passage of law, enactment of law, passage of bills, strategic oversight, I will say that they have done pretty well.
There is a good synergy. I commend them to keep it up. So, unlike in other assemblies, you see them in antagonism with the government, clamoring for impeachment with other states. But here, I think they are working well.
The general consensus among the political analysts and the members of the public were each of the members of the State House Assembly is expected to be a strong advocate of constituents' needs.
Moving on to the interview segment, we have Awal Musa Raspanjani, Executive Director, Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center, CISLA, to discuss the issue of the moment, inactiveness of state assemblies. You're welcome to the program from the state assemblies.
Thank you very much.
How would you assess the performance of state houses of assemblies in strengthening democracy at the subnational level?
Like we know, state assemblies is empowered by the Constitution to make law for good governance, for peace and stability, as enshrined in our Constitution. Therefore, they are very important, arm of government that is expected to ensure that government policies and programs are actually implemented, and excesses of government are also controlled through their oversight, through their legislative activities to ensure that whatever government does is in the interest of the people.
Let's discuss indicators which point to legislative inactiveness.
So there are a number of challenges that the state assemblies in Nigeria are facing. One has to do with the low capacity and skill in the legislative work. Quite a number of them, they were never legislators and they did not have knowledge or skill to be able to carry out their work as required by the law. So it's one of the challenges that they have. Secondly, they are also under control of the state governors. Many legislators in the states are just like more of like they become like appointee or SA to the governor, therefore making it difficult for them to independently carry out their legislative responsibility in accordance with the law that is allowed for them to perform. The third issue has to do also with the godfatherism, which is similar to the excessive control that the state governors they are having, over the state assemblies, So because of the godfatherism syndrome, many of them are not able to carry out their legislative, responsibility. Fourthly, you also have lack of financial autonomy from many of the state assemblies. So as a result of that, they become beggars to the state executive governors.
And finally, can you recommend reforms that could revive legislative engagement and independence?
There are a number of reforms that we have been advocating. First, we say that there's need to ensure that legislators have financial and political autonomy. If they don't have resources to be able to carry out their work, and they will have to go and be begging the governors to give them money to do the work, it's already compromised. Secondly, we need to make sure that we have regulation that will compel the State Assembly to be holding public hearings so that the people at the state will even know what is going on. Many of the state assemblies, they don't conduct public hearing, and therefore people don't even know anything, and they will make law for the people in the state. So making law is a very important and serious matter. There's need to get views and input, on the stakeholders in the state. So there's need to make that, as part of legislative practice, so that the citizen views are mainstream in whatever laws that the Assembly is making.
Thank you for your contribution.
Thank you very much.
You're watching the program from the State Assemblies, a program that reviews legislative activities in the State House of Assembly across the nation. We now take a break. When we return, Kaduna Assembly passes bill on skills training and pensioners' welfare as Akwa Ibom Assembly pushes tax reforms to broaden state revenue base. Stay with us.
Some moments never fade. Some debates still echo, and some decisions continue to shape our future. Stay back in time with us as we revisit the redefining plenary sections of Nigeria's National Assembly. From intensive debates to landmark legislations, from voices of yesterday to lessons for today, we bring history alive. This is from the archives, where the past speaks to the present, and history guides the future. We write history, revisit the debates. From the archives, only on NTA Parliaments. Watch us on DSTV channel, Go TV channel, Star Times channel, and free to air.
The program continues. Kaduna State is taking decisive steps towards skills development and improved social welfare as the State House of Assembly passes into law two crucial bills targeting vocational training and social security for pensioners. Noura Isa has more.
The Kaduna State House of Assembly has passed into law two key bills aimed at strengthening skills development and improving social welfare in the state. The first is a bill for a law to establish the Kaduna State Institute of Vocational Training, Research and Certification, designed to enhance technical skills acquisition, promote innovation, and improve employability among youths.
The essence of the bill is to make sure that the legal framework is provided, leadership is provided. We have a provost, deputy provost that will take charge of the three campuses, and then the provost that is overseeing the overall institution. Now we have the management, and then criteria for admission, and then what is required in terms of funding is provided in the law, so that the institutes are well funded to provide skills for our teeming youths.
Also passed is a bill to provide social security for pensioners, a move expected to ease the welfare challenges of retired public servants and guarantee improved living conditions after years of service.
It made it possible for both state and local government to pull those resources together and pay pensioners.
Lawmakers described the passage of the bill as a significant step towards human capital development and inclusive governance in Kaduna State. The Institute of Vocational Training Bill will now provide legal backing for the recently established skill acquisition centers by the state government. Both the bills are expected to be forwarded to the governor for assent.
Speaker Akwa Ibom State House of Assembly Udo Milton is assuring the public that the tax reform bills will not only strengthen betting and lottery activities, but will also expand the state's economic base beyond civil service dependence. Assembly correspondent Nsika Kuku reports that the Speaker was represented at the public hearing on the tax bills by the Deputy Speaker Kufri Abasi Edide.
The Speaker of the Moton says the aim of public hearing is to gather input from stakeholders and citizens in line with democratic principles and explain that the bills will improve accountability in revenue administration as well as regulate betting and lottery activities effectively in the state. The chairman, House Committee on Finance and Appropriation, and member representing Oran State Constituency, Itoretim, says input from stakeholders will help lawmakers make quality legislation capable of standing the test of time.
The Lottery and Betting Agency Bill is aimed primarily at providing for the regulation and control of lotteries and all gaming activities in Akwa Ibom State and for related matters. This is intended to further strengthen economic growth, encourage transparency, discipline, stability, as well as reduce the burden of multiple taxation on our people.
The significance of this bill when passed into law is that in concept, they will impact positively in the running of a Kano state government as they will promote effectiveness and efficiency in the revenue generation machinery, enhance transparency and accountability in the management of the state's resources.
Commissioner for Finance, Emen Bob, and that of Ministry of Budget and Economic Planning, Sika Nkang, and the chairman of Akwa Ibom State Internal Revenue, Okon, and some stakeholders spoke on the bills.
We are trying to put this thing forward to the honorable members so that it can be critically looked at. Because the role of Minister of Finance has to be properly aligned in the new law and properly integrated to protect and oversee and carry out oversight function on all financial matters.
Based on the experience, you harmonize every position and put things in perspective in such a way that when these laws are put out for use, Akwa Ibom people will be happy.
Before the enactment of this of the act, the federal government alone was collecting 18 types of taxes, 18. State government was collecting 26 types of taxes, and no government was collecting 21. And so they all came to say, let's not do that, let's harmonize and reduce the number of taxes so that taxpayers, businesses, individuals can pay, especially the low-income people.
Despite divergent views, the House Committee on Finance and Appropriation has assured participants that all submissions would be carefully reviewed before passed into law.
And with that report, we conclude this week's episode of the program from the State Assemblies. Remember, you can still watch this episode, news, and other programs on our social media handles showing on your screen. Thank you for watching. I remain your host, Amina Said.